Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to get started in about 2 minutes at 11:32, 12:32, depending where you're located. Give everybody a minute to hop on. So thanks for being prompt. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. Thank you all so much for joining Catch today. We are thrilled to have you here. So thanks for spending your morning or lunch hour with us. Today, we're talking about future-proofing your privacy program. This is the first of a 3-part webinar series hosted by Catch. I believe many of you have joined us because you visited Catch at the Global Privacy Summit booth earlier this month in Washington, D.C. So if we saw you there, thank you for stopping by or attending our parties or in whatever fashion we saw you. Thank you so much for joining the Catch team, and we're thrilled that you're continuing on this journey with us to learn more about Catch and what we do. So let's go ahead and start with brief introductions. My name is Colleen Berry. I'm the marketing lead at Catch and will be your host for today. And my colleague, John, is here with me. John, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, everybody. John Brennan here. I run our solution engineering team here at Catch. Lovely to see you all.
So in case you're unfamiliar with Catch, I'll give a very quick background here. We're a data privacy software platform helping businesses and brands to simplify privacy ops and use responsibly gathered data for business growth. We're headquartered in San Francisco. We also have a London office and customers across the US and globe. Most of our customers choose to work with us because of the fresh approach we take to modernizing data privacy and compliance. And that leads me to what we're here to talk about today, which is best practices and recommendations for modernizing one of the most foundational components of your privacy program, which is privacy risk assessments. So this is our flow for today. I'm going to set the table a bit with our mission here at Catch, kind of why we approach privacy risk assessments the way we do, the foundation of our company, and then we'll lead into the role of assessments in building your program and then John will talk a little bit about how we can potentially reinvigorate your assessment approach with tech available today. If you do have any questions at all, please pop them in the chat or Q&A. We are more than happy to go ahead and answer any questions that you have at all. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into sort of set the table here. I show this slide because this is a foundational slide for us here at Catch and illustrates the real and interesting shift that we're seeing in the market as the why for privacy innovation, right? This webinar series is all about leveraging tech to modernize your program. And what we see today is that the consumer has emerged as a really new, distinct, motivating factor for modernizing the privacy program, right? On the left here, we see the business. Businesses today are often struggling with the complexity of data privacy, whether it's the volume of regulations, the fragmented stakeholders and different agendas for success across the business, the complexity of different SaaS applications, the large volume of SaaS applications businesses are dealing with today, even how the web works, the number of digital identifiers, cookies, emails, just the complexity of managing and scope of managing all of that and processing the risks. sprawling data systems, complex data flows. It's really endless, right? From the business standpoint, it's the modern privacy program is a complex beast. So we have the business over here hamstrung by complexities in data privacy. But then on the right, we see that today's modern consumer is already rewarding responsible data practices with their brand loyalty and revenue. And so these complexities from the business are really stopping us from crossing this chasm to catch up with our customer, who is already seeing brands who are responsibly practicing data practices, touting data privacy as a brand value, and voting with their wallets. It's really imperative that businesses catch up with the consumer mindset so we can stay competitive in our markets. We actually performed a global media study with a partner, Magna, division of IPG, to ask about 5,000 consumers about their feelings towards data privacy. And we found the results were fascinating. More people value data privacy compared to ethical issues like sustainability and diversity. People actually express that they really want more transparency and control over data use. And sort of the ultimate stat is that when businesses follow responsible data practices, consumers told us that they would increase purchase intent by 23% when they see a business performing in that way. So we see that this chasm is really important for businesses to be able to cross. And that's why at Catch, a foundational idea that we have on the next slide is this concept of trust by design. So we've really built this concept of trust right into the heart of the platform, and believe that it's very possible that by taking this approach, we can help our businesses to build trust with consumers and grow with data at the same time. And that's really what we've set out to do, is prove with our platform and with Catch that these things aren't mutually exclusive, that it's actually possible to build trust with consumers through transparent data practices, data control, and responsible data handling, while at the same time, we can actually use responsibly gathered data to grow the business and increase revenues, increase opportunities for using the data in innovative ways for the business. And so we do this by baking this concept of trust into the fabric of our solution, the Catch Trust by Design platform. And so here on this next slide, you see the various applications that make up the Catch Trust by Design platform. So again, just setting the stage here before we dive right into assessments. These are the 5 pillars that we talk about when we talk about the Trust by Design platform. So at the front end, potentially the foundation is this data mapping and discovery, right? Helping our customers at the system level and then also within each system understand their data map, and then granular data discovery and classification in each of their internal and external third-party systems. Then, of course, we help our customers with consent management and orchestration, collecting those consumers' preferences and enforcing those preferences and privacy choices across every system in the business. Tied into that closely, we have communications and preference management, where we can also help our customers not only collect privacy choices, but also communications choices, marketing preferences relative to their business. As far as respecting those choices, we help customers with data subject rights fulfillment. So taking in access and delete requests and helping businesses to automatically end-to-end enforce those privacy choices across the business. And then, of course, last but not least, a foundational component of just about every privacy program is the risk assessments and intelligence. Now, we found that with risk assessments and intelligence, it's a really challenging piece often for businesses to keep up with on a regular basis, but also make it a team sport across the business, right? Risk intelligence and assessments in particular are a piece that really require a number of stakeholders. And on this next slide, we see here that from legal to tech to marketing and data, when it comes to sort of that entry point of a risk assessment, it can start from any number of stakeholders or departments. And from there requires collaboration with potentially legal and or tech leading that process, marketing and data being key influencers. And it's a really collaborative nature, this risk assessments piece, that really requires involving everyone to really make sure that it's not just a checkbox, but something that's actually potentially a meaningful process for the business. So we can check the box while we kind of reinvigorate the approach. And so I'd love to hand off to John here to talk a little bit about what we've been seeing as we talk to our customers and understand the challenges and processes related to their risk assessments today.
Great. Thank you, Colleen. Appreciate that. So what we did at Catch was really talk to our customers and understand what they would like to see in an assessment product or the capabilities that they'd like. And you know, as many of you have probably experienced assessments before, it's not the greatest experience. What we really want to do is talk to our customers about what are some of the challenges you see, and then what would that look like if you could solve that. So we spent a lot of our time understanding our customers' needs, and one big area was searching for information. So a lot of our customers were spending a significant amount of time just poring over spreadsheets for things that they really know they've already answered, but they had to find them in some way, shape, or form. So it was a very time-consuming exercise. And then additionally was just the sheer volume and scale of the new assessments that were happening every single time. So, seeing 100 or more every month and just struggling to not only scale, but then effectively collaborate with people. A lot of times the people that are receiving the assessments, that's not their primary function. Nobody really wants to fill out these long lists of questions. So that was a real struggle, as well as that collaboration at scale. But then also the individuals that were receiving those assessments really aren't privacy experts. They maybe are data systems experts, or marketing experts, or whoever might be being involved in that conversation. They don't understand a lot of the privacy jargon. So really helping them understand and guide them through that assessment, rather than just giving them a dump of questions that they really aren't even sure what's being asked of them. So the receivers were also having a very difficult experience. And then fundamentally, the fact that they weren't using their technology to make this process easier was just shocking. Their processes are not connected to their other privacy processes. So how can they leverage connections to speed this whole activity up around assessments? So what we found is kind of digging back into the organizations and how they leverage this information and how they assess processing activities. What we found is there's a lot of things that are already going on that we could reuse or repurpose. So when you think about a processing activity, we've got things like risk level, legal basis, what's the purpose of the use of the data? There's already some data systems that are involved, and there's a lot of data with those data systems. There's a data flow map, there's business functions involved, and there's retention periods. So all this information is really what is rolled up into an assessment. And what we're finding, though, is at the same time, there's all these integrated privacy operations happening. So how do we bring those together to make the overall assessment process much more enjoyable and much more efficient and effective? So first and foremost is that we notice there's a lot of consent management happening. Well, let's leverage the information we get from consent management for things like legal bases and purpose. Then also from a data discovery, a lot of organizations have spent time doing data systems discovery. And because of that, they've already got a lot of this information they know and they're going to need for assessment. So once again, why not re-leverage it? Same thing with things like data asset. They know where the assets reside, what are in the assets. And then also the automations that are occurring around data subject requests are providing a lot of information that's already out there. And then finally, there's all these data deletion activities happening. Well, that information informs the retention period information inside of an assessment. So how can you accelerate the speed at which you can do data-driven projects that require these assessments, while at the same time reducing the manual time and effort to get these things done? These assessments are necessary, they're needed, but there's got to be a better way to do it. So that's what we have come up with, we believe, is a better way. So let me quickly run you through some of the highlights of why we think this is a better approach. So just to give you a kind of a frame of reference here, what we're looking at really is this kind of dashboard approach around managing processing activities. And that's ultimately where we want to move the industry, is from a listing of here's a bunch of questions that people have to fill out that everybody kind of groans and they receive them, to more of a business of managing these processes and watching them flow, because they're much easier and they're much more efficient and they're a more enjoyable experience. So if we quickly take a look at maybe kicking off a new request, some of the things you'll see here, some basic information needs to be filled out, but we very quickly start getting into these data systems and the information we already had. So if you reflect back on that previous slide I showed, we already know information that's in these data systems. So why not leverage it? So allowing somebody who's triggering off a new processing request, why not allow them just to select the systems that they know? Now, once they select those systems, that assessment already has a bunch of information that's been created by all these other data systems integrations and activities around data systems that can now flow into these assessments. Again, leveraging technology to really speed up the process. And then really kicking off that processing activity request and triggering off. Now, if we look at one that is already in progress, you can see what this might look like. So you can see some of the basic information that we just showed before, stuff that we're getting from other systems because of the privacy operations happening. For example, the purposes. This is for personalization. What business functions is it affecting? I know what personal data types. So all this information is being pulled in by virtue of us knowing the information in those systems. And then we can also look at things like privacy and security. Again, classifications, duration of data use, so the retention policies, where the data is resident. So pulling all that information and leveraging it and pushing it into this assessment without having to ask 10, 15 people to fill out this information. And then being able to design a data flow around this. So a lot of what we see when we talk to our customers around assessments was this diagramming or this data flow that helps explain how the data is being used, where it's going, what other systems might be involved. So why don't we build that into the assessment? So now we've effectively built a collaborative tool for designing these types of data flow diagrams. And what you're seeing here is probably very reflective of a lot of other tools out there in the diagram world, like other companies have created these collaborative technologies that allow you to draw and do diagramming and share and ask questions. We're taking that very same approach inside of our assessments tool, where we can say, okay, here's the assessments that I've identified, or sorry, the systems I've identified. Here's the assets that I know that are in them. Now I'm able to connect these and hook these together. So not only can I create this diagram in a flow that makes more sense and is more descriptive, but now I can actually collaborate with people and ask questions, again, using a more modern technology approach to how do I work with people and make this more effective. This is something that people become very comfortable with and accustomed to, is in-app collaboration. So asking people, hey, explain this table here more, getting a response to it, checking that off, saying, yes, that question's something that you've probably used, like documents that have sharing capabilities and these commenting, very, very similar types of technologies that people are very familiar with today. So allowing you to do that now within the actual assessment. And what that's going to show to you then is that really a lot of the information we have, because it's already existing, may get me much further down the line than I would if I were to start from scratch. For example, on the right-hand side here, I know that I've got a particular system that I've already done assessments for in the past. I can reuse a lot of the knowledge I have about that. So why do I need to keep asking the same questions over and over again if I already have those answers? So leverage that kind of information. But then also being able to look at the completion and maybe who all's working on the rest of the pieces of it, and then being able to dive into maybe some questions that still need to be answered. So what you're seeing now is a reduction from, say, maybe 60, 70 questions down to 10 or 15 questions. Going back to that model of collaboration and efficiency, this speeds up not only the amount of time required, but also speeds up how quickly somebody can respond to something, because it's information that we need from them versus asking them the same question, 5 or 6 different times on different assessments.
Hey,
We'll
John,
also, you also see here, so is there a question? No.
Yes, actually, I have 2
Yeah.
questions.
Okay.
To just jump in.
Mhm.
One, general, does Catch require the usage of all 5 of our platform areas to do these auto-generated assessments, or can Catch integrate with other consent management tools and data mapping tools?
Yeah. So the way Catch is set up is we're actually a platform. And when I use the term platform, I mean that we are a single environment that has different use cases that we support through the platform. So you don't need to have all 5 to leverage something like assessments. You can use the platform for specifically assessments, but then also grow into things like consent management or data subject rights. So it allows you to start at a certain point and then grow into your privacy operations.
Great, thanks. And if they're using another consent management tool and want to just purchase Catch for assessments for now, that would be okay?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, if you don't need to use all 5 things from Catch for Mo to work, you can start with one piece and then use other things from other vendors, but then maybe grow into Catch over time. So lots of flexibility there.
Awesome. And then the second question, kind of back to your demo here, if there's a new assessment with new data sources, how does that look?
Yeah, so what'll happen there is you'll be able to pull in or create effectively new data systems inside of the assessment. Now, we may not have knowledge or information of those systems because maybe we're not connected to them. That's okay. So that can be actually one of the tasks. So one of the things you're seeing right here, to actually kind of bring it back into the demo, so it's a very good question to lead me back in, is what are some remediations we have. So what we're effectively doing is creating a task list, if you will, of work that needs to be done as a result of this assessment. One of those could be, hey, we're using system XYZ, don't know much about it. One of those tasks could be to assign John, who may be the head of IT, to provide information about this particular system. So it allows you to leverage information about existing systems or to notify folks that, hey, we need more information about these particular systems, and maybe that will drive them to actually setting up an integration with Catch for that particular system we don't have an integration with today. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the questions. Please keep them coming. The other thing you'll notice here too is the ability to finish these tasks, but then also we can go and reassign them to people. So I'm able to assign this to other individuals. So maybe I'm not the right person for it. Maybe somebody else is the right person for it. So it allows me to reassign it to other people to work on it. So again, collaboration being a key component here. Now, if I go back and I can look at a completed one, so we can see what a finished one might look like. A lot of this should look familiar. You can see obviously status are updated, but you can see like the remediation, so the list of tasks that need to be done. You can also see where we've completed some assessments, and there's also versioning capabilities of this. So as we go and fill out maybe more assessments, there might be different versions that we can refer back to from an archive type of perspective. And then if we look into maybe how we set all this up, a lot of this is centered around our questions and templates. So obviously, the core of assessments are the questions that need answers. And so what you're able to do is create new questions. These can take different formats, whether it's short or long answers, maybe a single option. You can have multiple option types of questions. That will allow you to create this bank or this library of individual questions. And then when we're done with that, we can bundle those questions up into a template. So these are reusable templates. So maybe you have a DPIA or a PIA that you're going to run many, many times, and you know that. You can pre-create these templates, and they can have connections to the different systems that might be part of it. Again, reusing of that information is critically important. And then we can also have what we call context-aware questions. So this is a type of question that, depending on what your answer is, may drive a different set of questions. So it's not this static listing of questions. There's more dynamicism based on the answers that are given that allow you to see and understand, oh, okay, because I gave this answer, then this particular question. What we see with that, the reason why that's valuable and important is because it reduces, again, the level of effort to complete an assessment. Why should you ask questions that aren't relevant because of the answers that were previously given? So we're trying to reduce that overall effort by introducing this type of dynamicism. And then being able to create these templates is actually pretty straightforward. I can simply add in new questions. I can add in some of the detail, and then I can also define what the actual context would look like. So we can see here that it's, if this answer is this, then we continue the next question. Or if we have any contextual logic, then I can build this in that if this, question 1.1 up above here, if it contains the words third-party systems, then we add a particular question. If we don't, we continue on down the list. So it's very easy to create these templates and incorporate the previous questions that you saw that I created, and allows you to very easily build templates, very easily build questions, with the ultimate goal that we have, which is really going back to what we're trying to achieve here, is get you to a point where you have, you have the ability to view something from insights versus just trying to get through the number of assessments that people are answering. We're trying to move people away from an activity where you're constantly chasing individuals to complete activities and fill out questions, and more to a life that you're living, looking at something through maybe a dashboard so you can gain insights. So you can see things like how long is it taking to complete the average assessment. You can look at the different comments. You can see maybe what is our average risk of processing. So again, this much more collaborative approach and efficient approach moves you from an effort of constantly chasing people to more understanding what's happening in your environment and understanding your risk assessment, even to the point of giving you trends analysis, or maybe who's the most active on these systems. We can also look at different areas of risk. So we see an overall risk of processing, but now maybe there's particular areas that we want to focus on that have a higher area of risk, like the application review process, versus maybe our advertising campaign is less risky area that we need to have less focus on. So this is really that ability to dive in and understand, how is my business operating versus chasing people and hunting them down to finish questions, which I think is what a lot of people experience today. So I'll pause there. Colleen, were there any other questions that came up?
We have one more.
Okay.
Can we see what a final DPIA looks like within the tool?
Yeah, I think what we can provide is, like something like this. I know it's not a DPIA, but this is more of like what a completed one would look like. Now, what we're trying to do is actually allow you to, instead of having the need to always kind of export into these reports, these kind of offline reports, is we also want to offer the ability to do, again, that dashboard type of approach, where you can allow somebody to connect to the Catch application and look at this in the actual application itself. So we want to move people away from emailing or sending PDF or CSV files or Excel files, and allow people to really connect to where these are happening. Now, we offer both, because we know people are in an evolutionary state of moving from kind of these offline reports to something like this. But the idea is to really allow them, through a roles-based permission, to, say your auditor, or maybe someone in your organization wants to see where this is going on, you can give them access to see this in real time. So we can provide, maybe as a follow-up, an example of a completed DPIA, like an exported report. But this is really what I was trying to move people to, is this more dashboarding, real-time look in the application versus giving them some kind of offline file. Okay. Any other final questions?
I think that's it.
Great. So let me wrap up. So really, again, what we're trying to do is really understanding how to do this right. A lot of our customers, as you saw, gave us a lot of feedback as to what they would ideally like this to be. And then what does this really do for them? Like, what's the value if we get this right for our customers? So really what our customers told us is that if you can do this, it's going to make it a lot faster for us to take our data-driven projects to market. We're also going to improve the internal awareness of risk, right? This is privacy is about risk as well, and making sure that your organization understands the risk that they're facing is really critically important. So doing something like this allows you to increase that awareness. Also, really want to mitigate the risk. So really using data minimization to mitigate that risk, making sure that you're compliant, right? That's a key component here, is really being able to be compliant. But then also, ultimately, what we heard is consumer trust is of the utmost importance. None of us are here if we don't have customers. A lot of these are our consumers, and therefore being able to adhere to their values of trust and allowing us to focus on a trusted relationship really is the key component of what we're trying to achieve here. So, Colleen, I'll turn it back over to you to wrap us up.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, John, for the great presentation. And thank you all for the questions. Really appreciate the ability to make it interactive. So thank you for participating. So that takes us to the end of our session today. Thanks for spending your lunch or morning with Catch. Our colleagues will be in touch with you to reach out as a thank you, to send along a lunch gift card for joining us today. So thanks all for joining. Hope you can enjoy a nice lunch on Catch, whether it's today or next couple days. If you'd like to continue the discussion with our team, please let us know. Reach out to myself or John. We would love to talk more with you more about our privacy risk assessments approach, show you more of a kind of customized demo, answer your specific questions. We'd love to get into it. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And then lastly, just a reminder that today is the first webinar in a 3-part series. So if you liked this content, please join us again on May 4th for consent management and orchestration. And then on May 11th, we'll dive into data subject rights. So with that, I'll say again, thank you, and hope everyone has a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.